Until we make the subconscious conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. Those are the wise words of Carl Jung. The average person utters approximately 6 metaphors a minute. They do so subconsciously, automatically, without even thinking about it. A metaphor is more than just a poetic device. We use them all the time. Metaphor is used anytime we go to describe one thing in comparison with another, such as it's raining cats and dogs, or life is like a box of chocolates. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm also going to be describing expressions and catchphrases under the title of metaphor. An expression or catchphrase being "C'est la vie," or the Nike "Just do it." And the reason for this is because expressions and catchphrases and metaphors are all metaphorical in their function. And what do I mean by that? I mean that metaphors are a way of communicating our perception of a situation, of ourselves and of others. They not only communicate our perception, but they also contribute to our perception. In order to have a big impact on the world, in order to create positive change, you don't have to do anything big. In order to reclaim ourselves as citizens, in order to identify ourselves as citizens, it's as simple as changing our words and changing our body language in order to embody that label as a citizen. Research by Amy Cuddy is highlighted in her 2012 TED Talk, and she explains how just 2 minutes of engaging in confident body language actually evokes a physiological change in our bodies. So after 2 minutes of engaging in a particular posture, we actually start simulating that emotional response. Earlier I spoke about how the subconscious is irrational. It doesn't differentiate between what is real and what is imaginary, whether that be a virtual reality, augmented or copied reality, whether it be your imagination or something that you're remembering. The subconscious mind doesn't really tell the difference. It just takes it as a suggestion, almost like a command that it responds to. Another example of somebody lacking that conscious filter is the character Data from Star Trek Next Generation. There is a scene in which a colleague says to the captain, "I guess we'll have to burn the midnight oil." As Data's walking by, he hears this and says, "But sir, you will blow up the ship." Obviously misunderstanding the metaphor behind the message being communicated. Someone with an enhanced communication between the conscious and subconscious. They're oftentimes political leaders, celebrities, actors, people whose jobs depend upon them having good social etiquette, high social status, good body language, very careful and conscious with the words that they're saying, and basically having an increased awareness of the influence that they exert on the world and on others, and being aware of how the influence of others can impact on them. They're people who make good eye contact, and often we deem these people as being particularly successful, confident, and comfortable with themselves, and they work well under pressure. They would work well in stressful situations. And this is because they have a level of control over their subconscious urges, subconscious impulses and reactions. Instead of reacting, they act. They take that moment to process the emotional responses physiology of what's going on and to act accordingly given their situation. So what is the conscious filter? The conscious filter is essentially the conscious intervention upon subconscious reactions. And to understand this a little better, I just want to go over what the conscious processes are and subconscious processes are in this context. So the conscious mind has to do with your willpower, your time management, your logical, rational thinking in your traditional sense of the word. It often gauges the social etiquettes of a situation. And the subconscious mind is kind of known as the old part of the mind. It has to do with your emotional responses, your imagination, your long-term memories. It is the storehouse of your beliefs, and as well as processing your sensory input and making meaning out of that. Does not discriminate between negative and positive or true and false. That's the conscious mind. The conscious mind, again, being that rational aspect, is what parses through good and bad or negative and positive, whatever that might be for you. So as you can see, based on those properties of the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, how much power resides within refining this conscious filter. It allows you to gain a level of control over these subconscious processes. The subconscious being a very powerful resource. And when you can harness this as a resource, by having that level of conscious awareness, you're able to attain that balance between emotional response and rationally assessing what's actually taking place in the environment. And this is why life coaches, for example, therapists, counselors, whether they know it or not, are working to facilitate that harmonious balance between the conscious and the subconscious, helping you to rationally assess what is taking place despite your emotional, subjective reaction that's going on. And so you can also see the benefits of harnessing those subconscious reactions, for example, through habit control. So we subconsciously form associations. We subconsciously will be conditioned to particular triggers. Charles Duhigg, in his book Power of Habit, actually breaks down the process of habit formation. He was able to look at our subconscious responses and encourage us to have this awareness of these subconscious responses, so that we're then able to guide this would normally be a subconscious response into a conscious one. So the parts that he talks about of a habit are your trigger, behavior, and reward. And this will actually take place with any habit, whether we're aware of it or not. For example, the smell of baked bread, which is trigger, will make you hungry, and then you eat it and you feel good. So you have your trigger, behavior, and reward. And so to develop a new habit, maybe something that you're struggling with, for example, exercising is a common example. So if you're wanting to develop this new habit, oftentimes when we go to do so, we're missing out one of those component parts, the trigger, the behavior, or the reward. So that makes the process of starting a new habit very challenging. But if you have those three parts, you're working with the natural subconscious mechanism, therefore you're able to implement it much easier. So for example, he explains that if you have your shoes by the door at a particular time, so that's a trigger, your behavior, you get yourself out the door, you're walking, you're jogging, whatever exercise it is, and then the key is that you have your reward. The reward being maybe you watch your favorite show that you haven't been able to watch for a while, or you go to a movie theater, or you give yourself permission to do something or go somewhere that you otherwise would not be able to do, and this is a reward. I don't really recommend chocolate because that can cause some interesting associations that might backfire on you, but